My husband came out as gay after 8 years of marriage, wants a divorce and to become the primary custodian of our kids. What should I do? I have been married to my husband for 8 years. We share 2 wonderful children, our 6-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son. Up until a few months ago, I genuinely believed we had a strong, happy marriage. Sure, like any couple, we had disagreements and challenges, but nothing that ever felt insurmountable. I never doubted that we loved each other or were committed to building a life together. He was my partner in everything, or so I thought. A couple of months ago, he sat me down and with no warning whatsoever, told me that he's gay. He explained that he's recently come to terms with his sexuality and that he feels he can no longer stay in our marriage. He said he needs to live authentically and asked for a divorce. To say I was blindsided would be putting it mildly. I felt like the ground beneath me gave way. How could the man I've spent nearly a decade with suddenly reveal something so life-changing? How could he keep this from me for so long? I didn't know how to react. On one hand, I understand that this is a huge moment for him. Coming to terms with your identity can't be easy, and I genuinely want him to live a life where he's happy and fulfilled. But at the same time, I felt completely devastated. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought it was real. I thought we were building a future together. And now, all of that has been shattered. But as hard as it's been to process this revelation, things have only gotten worse. Not only does he want a divorce, but he's also pushing for what feels like an incredibly unfair division of everything we've built together. He's the primary breadwinner in our family. His job has always been more demanding, but it's also been much more lucrative. I work part-time and have always been the primary caregiver for our children. I stepped back from my career to prioritize raising them and supporting him in his. Now, he's using that to argue that he's entitled to the majority of our shared assets, including our house. Let me be clear. We both contributed to our life together. Yes, he earned more money, but I made countless sacrifices to support his career. I took on most of the domestic responsibilities, handled the day-to-day chaos of parenting, and kept our family running smoothly so he could focus on work. But now, he's acting like none of that matters. He keeps saying he deserves more because he earned it, but it feels like he's erasing everything I've done to keep our lives stable. And as if that weren't enough, he's also fighting for full custody of our children. He claims that because he's been an involved father, he should be the one to have primary custody. To be fair, he has been a loving and attentive dad, but I've been the one holding everything together since day one. I'm the one who stayed home with them when they were sick, who attended every parent-teacher meeting, who handled bedtime routines, doctor's appointments, and countless sleepless nights. I've been their anchor, their constant. Now he's trying to paint me as unfit because I've struggled with anxiety and depression in the past. Issues I've worked hard to manage and which have never impacted my ability to care for my children. The idea of losing custody of my kids feels unbearable. I've dedicated my entire life to them. They're my world, and I can't imagine not being there for them every day. But now I feel like I'm being forced into a battle I never wanted, against someone I thought was my partner. It's like he's not just leaving me. He's actively trying to tear my life apart. I've tried to talk to him about this, to explain how unfair his demands feel, but he insists that he's just being fair. He accuses me of being emotional and unreasonable, as if my heartbreak and fear are somehow invalid. He says I need to understand that he's starting over and wants to secure his future, but what about me? What about the life I'm being forced to rebuild? What about the kids, who will now have to adjust to this completely new reality? I know he's going through a lot, but I can't help feeling like he's being selfish. He's prioritizing his happiness at the expense of mine and the stability of our children. He says he wants to co-parent effectively, but how can I trust that when he's already trying to take everything from me? I feel so lost. I never asked for any of this. I didn't ask for him to realize he's gay or to decide that our marriage was over. I didn't ask to have my entire life turned upside down. And now, on top of dealing with the heartbreak of losing my partner, I'm being forced to fight to protect my home, my finances, and most importantly, my kids. It feels like I'm being punished for something I had absolutely no control over. So, Reddit, AITA for being upset about all of this? Am I wrong for wanting to fight back and protect what's mine? Or am I just letting my emotions cloud my judgment? I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know what to do. Update to the story. Honestly, I no longer recognize the person I spent so many years with. His behavior has become so hypocritical, manipulative, and downright ruthless that I'm struggling to cope. I hope you can help me make sense of this. Even before the legal proceedings began, he had already crafted this narrative of being the perfect husband and father, while painting me as the villain responsible for everything wrong in our marriage. On the surface, he tells our mutual friends and acquaintances that he wants a peaceful divorce, and only the best for the kids. But behind the scenes, he's doing everything in his power to strip me of resources and rights to my own children. For example, a few weeks ago, during one of our discussions, he said, "I don't want to fight with you. We can resolve this peacefully if you just agree to give me full custody. It's better for the kids. You don't want them to suffer because of all this drama, do you?" I replied, "How is it better for the kids if you're trying to completely cut me out of their lives? They need both of their parents." He coldly stared at me and said, "You're too emotional to understand. And honestly, you can't provide the kind of life I can for them. Just think about it logically. This is the same man who once said, 'We're a team, and we'll get through anything together.' Now, he's weaponizing my emotional vulnerability and lower income to paint me as unfit. One of his favorite tactics is to secretly record me in moments where I look tired, overwhelmed, or upset. For instance, one evening when the kids had turned the living room into a total mess, I was cleaning up and accidentally broke a mug. It was a small thing, but after a long day, it just pushed me over the edge and I started crying. Right at that moment, he walked in with his phone out and started recording. There you go, exactly what I've been saying. You can't even handle day-to-day things without breaking down. How are you supposed to take care of the kids?" I tried to explain. "You know, I'm just exhausted. I do everything on my own, and all you do is add stress." He smirked and replied, "Well, that's not my problem anymore. The court will see these moments and understand." Another time, I poured myself a glass of wine after the kids were in bed. He barged into the kitchen with his phone and started filming me again. "See? This is why you can't have them. You choose wine over your kids." I snapped back. "It's one glass of wine after a long day. You know this has nothing to do with my ability to parent." His response? "That's what you say, but it looks very different on video." What hurts me the most is how he started manipulating our children. For example, I overheard him telling our daughter, "You want to stay with me, right? Daddy always makes sure you have fun. Mommy just wants to boss you around all the time. Imagine how much more we could do together if you lived with me." Our daughter looked at me, confused, and asked, "Mommy, is it true you don't want me to be happy?" I almost broke down in tears right there. How am I supposed to explain to a child that her father is lying without looking like I'm the one turning her against him? One day, during a discussion about the kids, he said, "You know, I never wanted to make your life harder, but you're the one making everything so difficult." I shot back, "How am I making it difficult? You're the one trying to take everything. Our house, our savings, and even the kids." He smirked and said, "Well, you knew I'd win in the end. I'm just trying to protect myself. If you agreed to my terms, things would be easier for you." It was chilling to hear how calculated and detached he sounded. The man who once promised to support me no matter what now treats me like his enemy. As I mentioned before, he transferred most of our savings into his own account. But he didn't stop there. He filed to have our joint account frozen, claiming that I was mismanaging funds. When I asked how he expected me to support the kids without access to money, his response was, "Well, you have parents, don't you? They can help. Or find another job. It's not my problem how you survive." When I reminded him that those savings were meant for our family, he shrugged and said, "Well, now they're mine. I earned them. You've been living off my income for years, so maybe it's time to be grateful." I've started documenting everything: his manipulations, his hypocrisy, and his behavior. My lawyer has been incredibly supportive and believes that much of his actions could backfire on him in court. Thankfully, some neighbors and friends have agreed to provide statements about how involved I've been as a mother and even pointed out some of his neglectful behavior, like accidentally leaving the kids unattended at the park. I've also found a child psychologist to work with the kids, so they have a safe space to express their feelings. I want to make sure they're supported, especially now that their father is actively trying to influence their perception of me. What's next? I'm preparing for the custody battle, and I'm determined to fight for what's right. He's doing everything he can to break me down, but I refuse to give up. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about protecting my kids and their future. Thank you all for your advice, encouragement, and support. It means the world to me. If you have any additional suggestions, please share. I could use all the help I can get. Update to the story. The past weeks have been a whirlwind of lies, deceit, and escalating conflict as we both prepare for court. It's no longer a divorce. It's an all-out war where neither side is pulling punches. I'll be honest, I'm not proud of everything I've done, but when you're pushed to your limit, you fight back however you can. Let me walk you through the chaos. My husband, soon-to-be ex, has doubled down on manipulating our kids. Every time they come back from his place, they're filled with confusing, hurtful questions. Recently, my 6-year-old daughter came home in tears and asked me, "Mommy, why do you hate Daddy so much? He said you're trying to make him go away forever." I froze. How do you even respond to that without vilifying the other parent? I knelt down and said as gently as I could, "Sweetheart, I don't hate Daddy. I'm just trying to make sure we all have what we need." But she pushed back. "Daddy said you don't want us to live with him because you think he's not good enough." It's gut-wrenching to hear this, knowing he's planting these ideas in their minds. But I'm not innocent either. During one particularly heated argument, I told the kids, "Daddy doesn't always keep his promises, does he? Remember how he said he'd take you to the zoo but didn't?" My son, only 4, looked at me with wide eyes and asked, "Is that why Daddy doesn't love us anymore?" I immediately regretted saying anything. This war is tearing all of us apart, and I hate that the kids are caught in the crossfire. It's not just the kids he's manipulating. He's also using mutual friends and even our families against me. For example, he called my parents, claiming I was losing it. He told them, "I'm really worried about her. She's so unstable right now. I'm afraid she might do something drastic." When my mom called me, panicked, she said, "Sweetie, he said you're not sleeping or eating. Is everything okay? Should we come over?" I was furious. He painted this picture of me as a broken woman who can't cope, knowing full well how protective my parents are. In retaliation, I called his parents and told them about how he was emotionally manipulating the kids. His mother, who has always adored me, said, "I don't know what's gotten into him. This isn't the man we raised." For a moment, I felt vindicated. But then she added, "Maybe if you had been more supportive of him figuring out who he is, none of this would have happened." It felt like a slap in the face. The friends divide. Our mutual friends have also been dragged into the chaos. One couple, who we've known for years, invited me over for coffee, only to ambush me with questions like, "Why are you fighting so hard? Can't you see he's just trying to do what's best for the kids?" I snapped. Best for the kids? How is lying to them, stealing our savings, and trying to erase me from their lives best for the kids? They exchanged a look, and one of them said, "Well, he told us you've been drinking every night. Is that true?" I left their house shaking with rage. The fact that he's spreading outright lies about me to turn people against me is infuriating. To fight back, I've been sharing my side of the story with anyone who will listen. Maybe it's petty, but I'm desperate to keep people on my side. The legal battles have been equally vicious. His lawyer sent a letter accusing me of creating a hostile home environment. They attached screenshots of text messages where I vented to a friend about how much I hated him. He claimed this was proof that I was poisoning the kids against him. In response, my lawyer gathered testimonials from neighbors who've seen him lose his temper in public. One neighbor overheard him yelling at me during a drop-off and agreed to testify. "You're a selfish, manipulative bitch, and I hope the court sees it." My lawyer also uncovered evidence of his financial deceit, bank statements showing how he secretly drained our joint account. When confronted in mediation, he had the audacity to say, "Well, I earned it. Why shouldn't I protect what's mine?" I couldn't hold back. Protect what's yours? What about the home I built, the children I raised, the sacrifices I made for you? His response? "You should have thought about that before trying to ruin my life." The camera incident. One of the worst moments happened last week. He came to pick up the kids, and I accidentally dropped my coffee mug, shattering it on the floor. I muttered under my breath, frustrated, and he immediately pulled out his phone to record me. "See? This is what I'm talking about. You're unstable." I turned to him, trembling with anger, and said, "Put the damn phone away. You're not going to use this to paint me as something I'm not." But he just kept filming, smirking. The court will decide who's telling the truth. What happens now? The court date is approaching, and I feel like I'm going into battle every single day. Both of us have crossed lines we can't uncross. I've said things I regret. He's done things I can't forgive. This isn't just a fight over assets or custody. It's a fight for survival, for dignity, and for the future of our kids. I know some people might judge me for stooping to his level, but when someone tries to destroy you, what choice do you have? I'm fighting with everything I've got. For myself, for my children, and for the life we deserve. Thank you for reading and for being a source of strength. If you have any advice or just words of encouragement, I could really use them right now. Update to the story. Both of us have done things that can't be undone, but the final outcome has left me shattered in a way I didn't think was possible. Over the past few weeks, something shifted between us. The constant fighting, manipulation, and chaos started to take a toll. Not just on us, but, most importantly, on the kids. One evening, after yet another tense handoff, I saw the look on my daughter's face. She was withdrawn, staring at the ground, clutching her favorite stuffed animal like a shield. My son, usually full of energy, clung to my leg and whispered, "Can you and Daddy stop being mad all the time? It makes me sad." I felt my chest tighten. It was like a slap in the face. We weren't just hurting each other. We were breaking our kids' spirits. That night, I texted him, "We need to talk. Not through lawyers. Not through games. Just us." To my surprise, he agreed. When we met, the air between us was tense but quieter than usual. I started. "This has to stop. We're destroying each other, and the kids are caught in the middle." He nodded, looking more human than he had in months. "I've been thinking the same. They don't deserve this." But, he hesitated. "But what?" I pressed. "But I don't know how to fix it. We've gone too far." For the first time, we were on the same page. We talked about how our anger and bitterness had consumed us, how we'd let it cloud our judgment, and how neither of us wanted to see our kids grow up believing this was normal. He admitted, "I've done things I'm not proud of. I felt so cornered, like I had to protect myself." I replied, "And I felt like I had to fight back just to survive. But look where it's gotten us." After that conversation, we both made an effort to tone things down. The kids stopped hearing us argue during drop-offs. He stopped recording me, and I stopped making snide comments about his parenting. For a moment, it felt like we were finally heading toward a healthier dynamic. We even had a couple of cooperative moments, like working together on our daughter's school project and taking turns attending her soccer games. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The kids started smiling more. My son even said, "You and Daddy aren't mad anymore. Does that mean we're happy again?" I didn't have the heart to tell him that things were still far from resolved. Despite our attempts to be more civil, the court date loomed over us like a storm cloud. We both presented our cases, though I noticed his lawyer was far more aggressive, emphasizing my struggles with anxiety and depression. They even used the videos he had recorded earlier, framing me as unstable and unfit. To his credit, he didn't bring up the most personal attacks in court, but his lawyer did all the dirty work for him. They painted him as the devoted, stable parent who could provide a better life for the kids. Meanwhile, I was framed as the emotional one, incapable of handling the responsibility. I sat there, listening to them twist the truth, and couldn't stop thinking, how can he sit there and let them do this after everything we talked about? After we agreed to try to be better, when the judge announced the decision, I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He was awarded primary custody of the kids. They would live with him full-time, and I would have visitation rights every other weekend. The judge explained it was in the best interest of the children, based on financial stability and emotional well-being. I was stunned. My lawyer tried to comfort me, saying we could appeal, but I couldn't even process what had happened. As we left the courtroom, I caught up to him and asked, "How could you let this happen? After everything, how could you take them away from me?" He looked at me, his face blank, and said, "It's not about taking them away. It's about giving them what they need." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What they need. What they need is both of their parents, and you just ripped that away from them. Don't pretend this is noble. This is about you winning. He didn't deny it. Instead, he gave me a small, almost pitying smile and said, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I really am. But this is what's best for them." I wanted to scream, but I held back. What's the point of screaming when the damage is already done? The kids have been living with him for a week, and the house feels unbearably empty. I've tried to make the most of my weekends with them, but it's hard not to feel like I'm missing out on their lives. My daughter cried when she left last Sunday and said, "Why can't I stay with you, Mommy? I don't want to leave." What am I supposed to tell her? That a judge decided this? That her father's lies and manipulations won? I look back on everything that happened. The battles, the lies, the pain, and I regret so much. I regret letting my anger control me. I regret stooping to his level. But most of all, I regret trusting him when he said we'd try to do better. In the end, he got everything he wanted. The kids, the house, the life. And he gets to walk around pretending he's the better parent, the one who did it for the kids. But I know the truth. And someday, the kids will too.